Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? This is Amanda. Today is the 24th of April 2023. I'm struggling because each time I try and record this introduction, I'm wanting to say the 24th of January 2023. So maybe we need to look back at what was happening around that time. I believe in Scotland there was the debate and the introduction of a transgender bill. But over and above that, I'm not sure. And I don't want to deviate too far from what I actually want to be talking about in this video. But I'm just putting it that there's something about the 24th of January as well for some reason. Maybe it's linked into somewhere else around the world where the subject of today's video, gender and transgender, something in particular happened. You can let me know. Right, this is going to be a video to really reflect on, maybe come back to. Do take a look at the comments, which I will be moderating so that they are respectful to all people that might watch this video. No arguing or hatred or bigotry or any of that, please, in the comments, or they won't be posted. What you can post, though, obviously, are comments where you are, if you might be confused, your own experiences. But please remember, we are a community and we're going to be learning from each other. Because what Metatron is saying this morning is that this whole subject about gender and transgender and what I want to call gender fluidity, that's the two words that I'm being given, gender fluidity, is not something that's going to be going away, okay? This isn't just something that is going to be talked about for a few years and then it's all over. No, this is something which we are going to have to get our heads around and come to some form of peace over, okay? If you're feeling a lack of peace with it. And Metatron is saying that there is a full spectrum of attitudes and, let's just say attitudes, but also behaviours linked to these subjects at the moment, from the very extreme to greater tolerance, non-judgment and inclusivity. And if we're going to move into New Earth, which is about unity, we have to be unified with regards to all aspects of our psyche and our being and indeed the whole human experience. So I'm going to start this video, I think, by giving some context in terms of where I think we are. We will then get into the teachings. I'm also going to include some of the comments that have come in already from you, because I did say I was going to be doing this video last week, and it's really interesting reading the discussion that has already taken place on Facebook and Instagram on this, because there were just so many good points made. And I also felt as though there was we were learning and we were developing our thoughts on this from each other, from each other's experiences. As I said last week as well, I also have people from the trans community that watch me and who are very welcome. So I'd be really interested to hear your views. So yeah, let's just get into this. Somebody said this morning, oh, you're very brave to tackle this. I don't think I'm brave at all. I think this is something that we need to take our head out of the sands and be able to discuss this in a respectful way. And that's the intention of this video, okay? So it was originally going to be a straight channeling with the musician known as Prince. I have to sort of clarify, it's the musician known as Prince rather than Prince Harry or Prince William. No, Prince the musician, who I've channeled a few times already. And what happened last week on the anniversary of his death, which I believe was the 21st of April, was that he gave me a little download of information about this whole subject of gender and the confusion around it and the muddle that we're all getting into around it. And he was talking about the sign, his sign, their sign, her sign, because that was the whole point about Prince's sign. He wished to become known as a sign, a symbol. And there were other reasons for that, of course, contractual problems with his record company, etc. But what he said last week was it was also an opportunity for him to not identify as either male or female. The actual symbol itself is a nod to both sexes, both genders. And so I mentioned that last week. And then after I mentioned it, I went for a walk and I got just another huge download of teaching from him. And what I'm going to be doing in this video is delivering that download, because it's literally as though he came in, all of the Heart Squad that I channel, a group of souls that I channel, there is a separate playlist on that. I'm far more interested in what they can teach us, and so he came in more like a teaching energy. It's like, here's the book, here's the chapters that you need to present. I will help you, and I feel he's going to be chipping in through this video. Here he is, very Bowie-esque there with the whatever that shape is, and yeah, Bowie as well, of course, probably has something to say on all this as well. So this video is going to be a teaching from me, from Prince, from Archangel Metatron, from Jesus and Mary Magdalene, who we've got over here with the Vesica Pisces symbol. You see that? I'll just get my ugly microphone out of the way. We don't really need to see that for now. Okay, so let's start with the context. 4 years ago, I did a channeling with Prince, whereby he said that we had massive blocks and hurdles that were preventing us from getting to New Earth, which is where we all want to be, basically. We want to leave this planet, well, not leave, we'll still be here, but evolve on this planet from a place of very polarized, 3D, heavy energy, to a much lighter, fifth dimensional planet, New Earth, where there still will be issues. It's not going to be paradise on Earth yet, but it's going to be a lot better than what we've got at the moment. It'll be much more about unity, love, compassion, tolerance, inclusivity, all of that. And Prince said 4 years ago in my channeling, I will link it below, that some of the main blocks we had were language, where we were going to be tripping ourselves up in knots over miscommunication, not having the right words to describe the new energies that were coming in. And I actually feel that comes into the whole pronoun debate that's out there. I'm not saying it's wrong that people can choose different pronouns now, but it's almost as though we're trying to put old language onto something that's new, i.e. gender fluidity. I might not want to identify anymore as she. I might want to identify in a different way. But yet I'm using an old 3D pronoun that comes from a language which is steeped in a certain culture and attitude and consciousness to describe something new. It's not really working. So language is one of the things, one of the blocks that we've got. And Prince talked about the fact that telepathy, for example, would be becoming much more common in New Earth. And we would get beyond language, although there would still be a place for its beauty. So literature's not going away, poetry's not going away, songwriting isn't going away. It's just that we increasingly, for the difficult stuff in particular, it's almost in the future, we just put forehead to forehead and we just understand each other, or palm to palm and we understand each other. And I say that because, of course, on the palm we have all of the lifelines and the fate lines and everything else. There's a mapper, there's a blueprint of who we are. And when you understand and put your palm on somebody else's, you understand their blueprint, because within the palm there is also all of the, the challenges, the things you're struggling with, as well as the opportunities. Anyway, so language is one of the things that's going to be tripping us up. It's one of the hurdles. Race, very obviously, is also another one that's going to be tripping us up. Sexuality less so, I'm glad to say, because certainly in my lifetime there has been, and I'm a heterosexual woman, so I'm not a gay woman, but I've been able to observe, haven't experienced it, but I've observed in my country, for example, the tolerance that started to build, the acceptability that started to build, just the fact I've got teenage girls now. It's a completely non-issue, you know, with regards to their friendship group. No one bats an eyelid whether you're gay, bisexual, whatever you are. It's just not an issue. And that's a generational thing that's been happening over decades. So, and that will continue. So greater and greater acceptance of people's different sexualities, it becoming just something that isn't even an issue or a barrier or a hurdle. I'm very aware in certain countries around the world it still is. But sexuality, less so. But the other third big one was gender. Okay, this is one of the hurdles that's going to be tripping us up, and we have to get over it, basically. Okay, because the future feels as though, and what Prince was talking about, is when I say a more androgynous energy in the future, and I'm talking, I mean, it's very hard to put a time on these things. He talked about 200 years, but of course, it might be longer, it might be shorter than that. And 200 years, there's quite a lot that can happen in 200 years as well, if you think about what's happened in the last decade. But whether it's hundreds of years, whether it's decades, whether it's a couple of years, a move to a more androgynous energy where we're not so overly identifying with whether we're male or whether we're female. Now, hear me out here, because I know some people are already triggered by that. That doesn't mean that there isn't also male and female within this more androgynous energy. How can that be, Amanda? Well, what Metatron's showing me is a colour wheel. You know, the colour wheels that you get when you're decorating your room, trying to sort out what paint you want, or you could imagine a pie chart, something like that. And within a pie chart or within a colour wheel, there are the different segments, aren't there, that make up the whole spectrum, that make up the whole pie, that make up the whole chart. And all of those different segments are going to be different ways that we can identify, or what Metatron is saying, different emanations of gender. Okay, but within that chart, male and female will still very much be present, will be predominant for many years to come still. But I'm not being shown, you know, what that chart looks like by the time we get to, I don't know, 500 years. Male and female might not be as predominant. It might be something else. But the whole point is this gender fluidity is something that is part of our evolving consciousness. Now, the rubbish cart is just coming down the road as I say this, okay? So, as you know, if you watch my videos, nothing is coincidental. I'm not going to turn the camera off. We're going to carry on, and you can just listen to the dust cart, because it feels as though this dust cart is reversing down my road to try and help us take away outdated thoughts, beliefs, programming with regards to gender. Because whether we like it or not, how we identify as male or female and what we believe that to be, or what we believe that to be in terms of a good representation of male or female, is culture specific and differs around the world to a degree. Obviously, there are universal things, okay? But yeah, so we're going to be clearing out some of this old dogma, is what I'm hearing, and programming. Some people are going to find it easier than others. Some people are going to be digging their heels in and saying, no, this is the way it is. I'm being shown the Bible, being flung in people's faces, that this is what it says in the Bible. God made Adam and Eve. He didn't make anything else. We're going to be, that is definitely going to be an uprising energy, which is probably already here anyway. But again, what I'm being shown is just okay, excuse the language, but I'm hearing the word, it's like shitstorm, where there are so many different attitudes and beliefs, and people with different opinions from very fundamentalist to very tolerant to very woke to everything else in the middle. And it all needs to come up. It all needs to be heard. It's all valid, actually, because however people feel is how they feel. It has to come up. We can't quieten it down. So it's a shitstorm of hurts, feeling misunderstood, resistance, rejection, I don't want that, or acceptance, I will open my heart to that. And this process, this shitstorm, is going to be going on for a while, okay? But eventually it will clear. And in the clearing, we're going to have a much more peaceful energy where we've come to an understanding. We've sorted out some of the more extremes on either side. And there's been compromise, is a word I've heard. So, for example, with regard to compromise, it might be something, and this is an example I am giving, it's not coming through from spirit, but because the compromise hasn't been reached yet, okay? But one of the compromises could be, for example, with things like gender reassignment surgery, that can't happen when you're still a child, okay? There might be laws that are brought in, they might already be brought in. That could be one of the compromises, that actually, no, that's not okay. Society, the world, has sifted through it, what everybody has said, taken everybody's opinions and beliefs into account, and actually the general consensus is trying to move us forward and evolve. But no, that can't happen, for example, in childhood. That might be one thing. Sports might be another area, okay? I watched a very, you see, one of the voices that is out there in this, let's just call it storm now, so I don't have to keep swearing. One of the voices that's out there in the storm at the moment is Caitlyn Jenner. And I was watching Caitlyn yesterday, and it was quite a recent interview where she was being interviewed about sports and, let me get this right, men who have transitioned to female, who are competing in female sports. And of course, winning everything. And I think Caitlyn Jenner is a really good example of a voice of tolerance and the middle way, because she's absolutely shifting the compass in terms of what we think is possible as a human being, that you're born male, but she's now female. But she was saying things like, it's just common sense. These are her words. It's just common sense that if, for example, you've gone through puberty as a boy and you've gone through puberty and become a man, there are various things that happen to the body in terms of the growth, in terms of muscle growth and the height you reach. I don't know, I can't remember what she was saying, but things like that. So that could be something which is brought in whereby if you have gone through male puberty, it isn't actually fair to then transition and compete in female sports, because you will always have an advantage, even if there is obviously the testosterone levels have been reduced within the body, etc. So she would be a voice of to listen to during these times. She's very wise, and I suspect her soul mission is absolutely to do what she's doing now, because what she's trying to do, it strikes me as, is calm the flames on both sides. It's a middle way approach. And somebody like her, she was saying she's been attacked by the trans community for saying what I've just said she said. But, so we need these voices which are trying to take into account everybody's opinions, beliefs. Other names, excuse me, that might be out there at the moment. Let me have some water, first thing in the morning. In the UK, I don't know whether he's popular around the world, somebody like Eddie Izzard. Now, Eddie Izzard, of course, is different because he hasn't transitioned to female. He just dresses as female. But I'm including this in I know it's different, but I'm including this in the whole subject that we're talking about today, because this is gender fluidity, you see. It's also to do with helping to shake up our programming in terms of, hold on, you're a man, you should dress like that, you should behave like that, You should do these type of things because you're male. What are you wearing a pair of high heels for? And I think Eddie Izzard, again, very middle way, because I believe he, she, they have got different names. His male name is Eddie. I'm sorry, I don't actually know what his female name is. Let me have a look at it. But the point is, I remember Eddie Izzard, I'm sure I'm right in saying this, saying, you can call me either and I'm not going to be offended. Something like that. Yeah, okay. Susie as Eddie Izzard is a British stand-up comedian, actor and activist. Very popular over here, and yeah, I'd use her as another example, her as another example. By the way, if I make mistakes during this video in terms of mispronouncing somebody in terms of their pronoun or whatever, apologies, give me a break, because I'm trying to do my best here, because this is the point. Well, those of us that are even trying, okay, because some people aren't even trying, we have to take into consideration that people are actually trying. For big changes that have to happen, for the hurdles that have to be got through with our society to get to New Earth, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to slip up, we're going to say things that actually, oh gosh, actually maybe that isn't appropriate anymore, or I didn't mean it in that way. There needs to be tolerance that comes into the debate as well. Because you've also got within this shitstorm people that are deliberately fanning the flames of division and separation and don't want the storm to clear, it seems to me. And this is true for lots of other subjects as well. But just as an example, because it's today, today's news, it's actually the second item in the US section of the Mail. I know it's a bit of a trash paper, but anyway, it's just what I'm looking at. It says here, transgender activist warns women who try to stop her using their bathroom that it will be the last mistake you ever make, in a chilling video urging LGBTQ people to buy guns. She's called Tara J. I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of her. And the way she's speaking is completely and utterly inflammatory. It's not going to help it's not going to help her cause at all. It says Jay, who began transitioning in 2017, urged other transgender and LGBTQ people to buy guns for their own safety. If you back a wild animal into a corner, they're going to become a dangerous animal, she said. So if you want to die on that hill of yours of righteousness and moral majority, then you go right ahead. I dare you to try and stop me. It's all that, it's not going to win you any fans. It's not going to win you any friends. It's not going to bring people to your table. It's inflammatory language that's deliberately there to make people more entrenched in the opinions they probably already have. So we have people like that, and that would just be one. Okay, but there's lots of them. So yes, moving towards this more gender fluid world, but remembering there's still male and female within it. I would at this point like to read out two comments from you. One came in from one of my followers on Instagram. I won't name you, just in case you don't want to be named. But I think this sums up how lots of people are feeling who are trying to get their head around this changing world, because it is a changing world. I have to say that one of my daughters last night, actually, she's 16, we were just having a little text conversation last night, just before we were about to go to bed. I know, we were both lying in bed. But anyway, the point is, and she was talking about the pregnant man emoji, that's there. And I think and she wasn't saying it was good, bad. She's very crystalline. She was like, have you seen this, Mum? She said, have you talked about this yet on your channels? And I said, yes, I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. So everyone's trying to get their head around, how do they feel about this? So this is the comment that came in. And many of you might feel this. So, such a difficult subject that I personally find hard to be consistent with my beliefs on it. On one hand, I am a complete hypocrite, and on the other, a full-blown supporter. I'm talking trans rights here. I haven't yet found my middle ground. My son goes to a private boys' school, and my daughter goes to a private girls' school. At my son's school, they have a final year student transitioning and a male parent transitioning to a female. Live and let live is my attitude towards them, along with good for them for being true to themselves. I also have a 70-year-old male client that I've been assisting with for him accepting himself as a female. I love him to death for finally being his true self. But then, as you say, what if my daughter had to share a bathroom with a burly male? No way. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That scares the hell out of me. So here comes the hypocrite side, basically saying, do what you like, live as you like, but please don't come near my kids. Seriously, I can't live like this because it seems so wrong. However, I don't know how else to feel. I'm looking forward to hearing some guidance. So I think that would be enough, for me personally, that would be another example of like the whole bathroom situation. And I mentioned this on Facebook and Instagram last week. I went into a public toilet last week in a department store, and the only one they had was a unisex toilet. And I felt very vulnerable in there as a woman. There wasn't anybody even else in there. And straight away somebody came at me because I said I felt very vulnerable. You know, what if there had been a predator in there? And people straight away came at me in terms of, oh, you know, so you're saying trans are predators, are you? It's like, no, that's not what I said. I said I'd be feeling vulnerable because, again, women in our culture are raped, okay? We are raped, we are assaulted, sexual crime is completely on the rise. And I actually wasn't differentiating between a transgender person and just a bloke coming in off the street who has got nefarious, you know, reasons for going in there. It's happening already. So that would, for me, would be one area where I think the bathroom energy, toilets, loos, whatever you call them, I think there should be an option of, personally, of separate toilets, but maybe also unisex. You know, that would be a compromise, would it not? That you then, but I know, you know, this, again, shitstorm, it's like, yeah, I can already hear people say, no, but we want this. Eventually, there are going to have to be some areas where there's compromise, okay? And that would be one example. None of this is easy, guys. None of this is easy. But if we stay in our hearts and we try and listen to each other, but we also have what Caitlyn Jenner says is common sense, that actually, for example, in the situation of bathrooms, there are men out there, whether, you know, even take the transgender thing out of it, just men going into a bathroom with a lone 16-year-old girl or something, it can be a recipe for disaster. So women have felt threatened for years by males who sexualise them. I remember as a younger woman not being able to walk down the street, all the wolf whistles, all this type of crap. It makes you feel really uncomfortable, and absolutely it can go to the next level with assault and etc. So, you know, that's one area. So that's one comment that came in, just like, I'm trying to get my head around this. I want to do the right thing. I want to be 5D in my approach. I'm already helping people, for example, in the trans community. I already know examples of people within the trans community, but yet there are areas which I just don't feel comfortable with. Help, okay? Yeah, and I said last week, you know, at my daughter's school, there is a girl who's transitioning. Well, I don't know if she's transitioning, but she certainly identifies as a boy now and is called a boy's name. And, you know, so it came into our life in that way. And I also said last week that I have a friend of a friend who's my age, and her, let me get this right, her adult daughter in her 20s has just had a double mastectomy to become male. So, you know, this is close to home. Most people now have examples in their community or know somebody that is affected by this. Always remembering that the people that are transitioning or are gender fluid are human beings with maybe very valid reasons for wanting to do so, and it might be the right thing for them to do so. And the next comment I'm going to read out, which is from one of my followers, is beautiful. And he says within this, I don't know whether he identifies as he. I'm sorry if I've just stumbled. You see, you can easily stumble into things without even meaning to. I'm not going to edit that out. What I was about to say is this person, because they don't put their name, so I'm not sure, knew when he was 7. You see, this person doesn't even put a gender, I don't think. They knew when they were 7 that they were in the wrong body. And I remember going to school with somebody about that age who clearly was in the wrong body, and was a boy who definitely wanted to be a girl over and above maybe normal's the wrong word. You see, this is, again, didn't mean it as that came out. So this is a really important debate to have, isn't it, guys? Really important. I'm saying guys just because it's my language. I didn't mean anything by that either. Right, here's the comment. Let's read the comment. Go to the comment, Amanda. Right. Hi, Amanda. I am a trans elder. I love that, you see. I don't even know what... You haven't even said if you're... What you identify as. I'm a trans elder, born exactly 9 days before Prince, in Los Angeles. I was also a professional musician from 75 to 2010. I transitioned in 2003 at 45 while leading a band in San Francisco. I knew when I was 7. Interestingly, after watching you channel Prince about 2 months ago, I asked Prince to be my guide as well. I feel him strongly, though I am a novice at this. I participated when he did the guided meditation around healing the world. It was profound. Anyway, I'm here as an actual living, breathing, androgynous, love light wielding soul. Trans-dimensional and trans-male, and proud of it. We are written off as aping the patriarchy, whereas trans women are feared as both a threat to the feminist and toxic masculine status quos. We just want to live our lives like anyone else, and are well aware of why we are being demonized by low-density fear, victim, persecutor, driven forces. I am here to be love on the blue ray, open to respectful questions and hoping for a real raising of collective consciousness. We have always been here. Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? At the end, we have always been here, absolutely. So what a beautiful soul we have here in our community. So pleased to see that, and hope that there are many more. I would like to go back to the point that they make there about we want to just live our lives like anyone else, and are aware of why we are being demonized by low density fear, victim, persecutor driven forces. Because I believe that what I'm feeling is that this wokeism is being used against the community to cause greater division and greater separation. And actually all partners within the debate are harmed by it. So an example of that would be, there's no way that I can make this video without offending some people, so I'm just going to have to go for it, because I'm not trying to, but this is what I genuinely feel. I'm a teacher, this is what I'm feeling is happening. So the recent Bud Light campaign with Dylan Mulvaney, who I don't really know anything about, but you know, obviously it's been all over the world news, you haven't been able to get away from it. One interesting thing about it is that I heard somebody else say that apparently within a particular suburb of New York, where there's a very large trans community, the sales of Bud Light went down 70%. Now, I'm assuming that's true. It's just something I heard. But it would make sense to me that that is the case, because it's not helping. I don't think campaigns like that are helping anybody at all. They're just creating greater separation and greater division, because it's like they poke both bears in the ring, as it were. The trans community might feel parodied, or just they're not being represented in the right way. They're also maybe being used, being exploited. The latest fad, the latest fashion, whatever. Please tell me what you think if you are part of the trans community. What do you feel about that campaign? But on the other side, I think on the side of the can it said something like celebrating 360 days of being a woman. And you see that poked a lot of women. It riled them up, because I've seen a lot of counter responses to that in video form. I think there's lots of them on TikTok in particular, where women have come out and said, hold on a minute, you've 360 days of being a woman. You know, I've been a woman for example, myself, 56 years. Camera got too hot. It's a hot subject. Gets people hot under the collar. You see, that was the whole thing. The campaign got people hot under the collar. It poked them in the wrong way. So yeah, the counter campaigns. I've been a woman for 56 years. You know, have you gone through menopause? Have you gone through some women, for example, like breast cancer, cervical cancer, you know, hot flushes, puberty, the monthly cycles that go on for years with all the moods and, you know, emotions that go with that, all this type of stuff, you know. So it's a campaign that actually divided. It didn't cause any type of unity to come in. Maybe the intention was for that to happen, but it definitely hasn't been done in the right way. So it is just a bit of a mess out there, and somehow we need to get over this huge hurdle. And let's see what came through then in this download with regards to that. So I'm going to go to some, when I say notes, I actually just took them down on the walk. I put them onto my phone, so I'm going to be looking down and let's see the type of things that Prince was bringing in. He was confirming that there will be a balance that is achieved at some point, and we need to hang on for that. But as I say, there's a time period to be had. He was talking about unscrupulous people that get behind various agendas, and I think the Bud Light campaign is a good example of that, actually. For what agenda? For what reason? Did it help either side? Did it push the debate further along the track in a positive way, or did it set it back? You can answer that question yourself. I'll just leave that hanging in the air. But yeah, Prince talking about the fact that what is a natural evolving move to greater experimentation with gender fluidity, and actually is what he did during his lifetime as well. He didn't transition to female, but he wanted to explore his femininity as well as his masculinity within just one body. And this is something that more people are going to be doing. I'll come to that in a moment. But that natural wave that is coming through our world, because remember the pie chart, remember the colour chart, we're going to end up with just more expressions and emanations of gender. But the people with agendas are getting behind it to not try and reduce the hurdle, but to make it even higher. There was something there that just came in my mind and then just went out again. Just give me a minute. About the agendas. Oh, okay. So what I want to talk about now is gender fluidity, not necessarily gender transition, but certainly, I mean, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. The pull, the energetic pull, the energetic desire to experiment with what is it to be male, what is it to be female, as the programming of the matrix starts to drop away. Now, one thing that struck me is that, and this might not be true statistically, but it's just something that I've observed and I feel is true, is there seem to be a lot of men that are wanting to transition to female or to just experiment with dress in a more female way. And that led me to feeling into an energy that is about exploring the divine feminine. Now, we know that New Earth is moving towards more of a divine feminine energy than the old patriarchal energy. And it just feels as though there's an energy here at play which is wanting to weave into the psyche in terms of some men, not all men, but some men, in terms of there's a greater desire to explore the feminine. And it doesn't mean you've got to put a dress on, by the way. And also it doesn't mean you have to transition. But just for some men, that's what I'm saying, for some men, they are seeing this as a cue almost, or a signal to maybe do that. Others will just explore it in a more subtle way. Not that there's anything wrong in either way of doing it, but think about the feminine qualities, the feminine energies. So a more feminine energy, I don't know. I mean, I'm being shown the two extremes. So like very macho, patriarchal energy, which is on the way out. But maybe somebody like that starting to just, some of the programming starting to crumble. And then human nature has this thing where sometimes they go from one extreme to the other, which is that, but the answer is somewhere in the middle. So it's about exploring our feminine side. As I say, it doesn't have to be dressed, doesn't have to obviously going the full hog of having a gender assignment surgery. But that seems to come into it as well. But again, for a female I'm being shown here now, somebody like a very timid little woman or female. And again, nothing wrong with that. But in some, wanting to explore, what does it feel like to be more masculine? What does it feel like? I mean, I'm being shown Annie Lennox here now. So those of us from the 80s, like me, remember Annie in her Who's That Girl era, I think it was, and she always wore a very sharp suit, didn't she? And she was very androgynous in her look, very beautiful. But, I'm obviously not talking for her because I'm not her, but it just felt as though she was just experimenting with how does it feel to present a more masculine persona. In the same way that somebody like Boy George, one of my absolute heroes, love George, he experimented with, how does it feel to present a more feminine persona? And I remember the first time Boy George came on to Top of the Pops, and people like, I remember it, people like, is that a boy? Is that a girl? What is that? What is that? Literally, people said that. And, I'm showing my age here, but I remember it very clearly. I'm sure many of you do. What is that? What is that? And deliberately, like trying to, just expand the mind. Going back to Prince, somebody like that, again, I've always been very attracted actually to quite feminine men. Not that my husband is at all, but love him in a different way. But I just always have found them very appealing. I've always been attracted to them. And I remember in the days, and again, you see, this is where generational, you mustn't judge generations. Because I remember sticking up pictures of Boy George on my wall as a teenage girl. I remember my dad saying to me, he said, starting to get a bit worried about you. But that's his generation. It's not excusing it. It's just, it is what it is, Burly Yorkshire bloke, got your teenage daughter sticking up these pictures of men who actually look like women. It's like, he's questioning me. But because you've got to laugh at it, really. It's but that's why we've got these wonderful, unique characters in our world. And it strikes me as very relevant to this debate, particularly as a medium, that we have really bright lights leaving the planet at the moment, but they're leaving for a reason to, I'm sure, teach us going forward. I'm talking about the likes of Paul O'Grady and Barry Humphries. Barry Humphries, rest your soul, he transitioned, I'm talking about transition to death, passed over into the other side. I think it was only yesterday or the day before, quite recent anyway. And of course, those of you that don't know, Barry Humphries, yes, very male man, but, his persona, Dame Edna, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And again, drag act, but actually it's all about expanding people's mindset in terms of, and people laughed, of course, but, and it was funny, but remember, seeds get dropped into the consciousness to move people forward. So everything is there to try to get us to stretch our mind a little bit. And of course, what happened is a lot of the people, when Barry died, lots of people were saying, rest in peace, Dame Edna, because Dame Edna it's like she was as real as he was. Let's just flash up a picture of her. Have I still got it? There she is. He, she, there she is. Good old Dame Edna. Yeah, love her. Loved her. Loved him, Same with Paul O'Grady. I'm sure both of those are going to be coming forward anyway at some point to be channeled. You see, one thing Prince said, let's just get your picture up here so you can take the flak from this one, Prince, because I can already feel some people are going to be really triggered by this. But Prince was saying, you know, the question, does God wear a dress? You know, stretch your minds. And that's for people that think that God is male, you know, or does God wear a dress? But then other people, the other extreme is like, oh no, but God is female. Well, does God wear trousers? You know, God wears both a dress and trousers, but of course God isn't a human being like we are. It's just we personify him, her in that way. In fact, I was watching David Wilcock this morning, and he was talking about the very ancient texts, going back to whether it's Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever, and the earliest written descriptions of God is Mother God, Father God. Okay, Mother God, Father God. So if you think about that, and you believe that you are a divine being, I believe we are all divine beings, we are all sparks of God, then you have within you God, and God is both Mother God and Father God. You know that you have both masculine and feminine energies within you. And so I feel as though this whole movement, gender fluidity, is about us starting to truly acknowledge that. But it doesn't mean, of course, you have to, as I say, change sex, but it is about exploring our genders within ourselves. So I also personally believe and have been told that many of these people, particularly the younger generation, somebody like the girl at my daughter's school, for example, I suspect, I've not tuned in, but I suspect they would have had, that would have been their sole contract. It had already been decided. And you see, because for a parent, it can be challenging. You've got to get your head around the fact, I gave birth to a girl, they now want to become a boy. And I'm not talking here about changing gender surgery as a child. I'm talking about, you know, older, so when the age of consent has passed. But, you know, say your child is 18, 20 and then wishes to have surgery to change. As a parent, if you've given birth to a particular sex of a child, it will take time to get your head around, and that's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that we need time. And so you can say, well, that child, stroke adult, chose that path, that they were born that, but then they wanted to become that, or they just didn't want to actually have surgery, but wanted to identify differently. But it's not just their soul contract, it's also the parent's soul contract. Okay, so, and that's very difficult because we forget all of that. It's like we forget everything. We forget what we've agreed to. So all of these people that are having these different experiences, I suspect it's very much tied into the contracts that they came to do, which is actually, I want to put it this way, think about it. You know, you're born, you live for 80, 90, 100 years if you're lucky. It's a very, very small period of time. And everything is accelerating. Time is getting quicker and quicker. I mean, can you believe we're nearly into May already of this year? So it's like the soul's wanting to have more and more experiences within one body in one lifetime. And as a group of souls, I'm being shown an over group of souls now, pre-incarnation. It's like there's, frustration's not quite the right word, because again, language is one of the things that trips us up. But there's a growing sense of frustration that Earth is not moving forward as quickly as maybe it could. Note, I didn't say should, I said it could. So more souls wanting to jump into a body but have more experiences within a single body. Okay, so that's going on as well. Another thing that Prince brought forward, which I think is a really important part of this, is know, in a way I suppose it can be summed up as know thyself. Let me just have a sip of water. There is a lot of expectation out there that I identify as whatever I identify as, and you have to accept it. Okay, you have to accept it. Number one, you can't make anybody accept anything that they don't want to, because everybody has free will on this planet. It's just one of the rules of this planet. We all have free will. So you can't make anybody do anything. And there's always going to be a degree of intolerance and prejudice or just stubbornness or just seeing things differently from you. So the point is, that Prince was saying is, it's not so much about seeking outward validation. It's about you feeling secure within yourself. And that was more of a call out to the trans community, I believe, or gender fluidity community, which is, there's so much, what he's saying is there's so much energy being put into, you must see it my way. You know, go back to that, sorry, but idiot I'm feeling, I don't even know who this person is, but the one who's advising people to take up guns because you can't go into a unisex toilet or whatever. Just, there's no compromise there whatsoever. But what that's really all about is seeking outward validation. And the message coming through is that if we are secure in ourselves, in terms of what we are, however we identify, that is the most important thing. You know, it is the most important thing, because you will never be validated by everybody out there. Take it away from gender now, take it into another area, just in terms of whether people like you or dislike you, approve of you or don't approve of you, think you're this, think you're that. There will always be that. There will always be that out there. As a YouTuber myself, obviously I poke my head above the parapet, I talk about subjects like this, I will get attacked for this video probably, I get attacked for most things that I do. I think there's somebody who's made a video of me, you know, saying I'm this, I'm that, false light, all the rest of it. I think it's one of their most widely watched videos. Well done is what I say to that person, because actually any energy has a counter energy. So for all the people that dislike me, there will be other people that like me, okay? It will be as strong a reaction. So it's actually a sign of your strength sometimes if you're attacked. It's not necessarily pleasant, but the truth is you can't make other people like you in any respect, or even respect you, or see you as you see yourself. So in my example, I know I'm not false light. I know I am a good person coming from the right place. I'm working with the energy of God, etc., doing my best, flawed human like we all are. Other people can see it very different, and there's nothing I can do to ever change that. So this is really what he's getting at, okay? Stop seeking outward validation. It's enough that you have validation within yourself. Of course, it's nice if we get validation from others. I'm not saying it isn't, and he's not saying it isn't. But the core lies in you being strong and approving of yourself. I mean, I love this comment that I read out to you earlier, and I'm going to go back to that middle paragraph of it. Anyway, I'm here as an actual living, breathing, androgynous, love light wielding soul, trans-dimensional and trans-male, and proud of it. Brilliant. In that one statement, you have identified who you are. There is nothing that can rock that. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. And there's almost this sense of, I don't need your approval or not. But putting energy into fighting and just raising the temperature higher and higher, it's self-defeating. It's not getting anybody anywhere. So remember, the shitstorm will clear. Eventually we'll get to this place of more balance. Prince was talking about a technique that we could use to help spread this energy of tolerance and helping to move the hurdle so it's not quite as high, to get us to a place where we're able to be more accepting of different people and how they wish to live their life, etc. And the two examples he gave me were, I think he might have done this before. One of them he's certainly done before, because of course purple rain, okay, it's obvious, isn't it? And he's talked about this in one of my channelings before. So if you're in a very maybe low vibe area, or you're somebody that's been attacked for your beliefs or whatever, or you're struggling with how you feel about it all, bring down the purple rain. And it came out actually, I was listening to Cloud Busting by Kate Bush, another great song. But you know, that whole thing about cloud busting, so just imagining a great big cloud and it's just raining down purple light, which of course is about balance and unity. And purple light is made up of and violet light in particular is made up of red and pink and blue. So you've got the whole spectrum. You've got male and female energy in balance raining down, because we need to find our balance with this. The other one was telegraph wires. Might be called different things in different countries, but most of us have got telegraph wires in our streets, in our towns, certainly, linking up all of the communications, you know, from my town to the next town, to the capital city, to beyond. And again, just visualizing, imagining those telegraph wires, those lines carrying an energy through them of whatever you want it to be: compassion, tolerance, cooperation, and what Prince is saying here, listening, the ability to listen to each other, because this is what's happening in this very heightened energy at the moment. No one's actually listening to each other, because the voices are extreme and there aren't as many voices in the middle ground, such as somebody like Caitlyn Jenner, for example, with regards to this topic, transgender. People are just shutting off. It's like, I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen. We have to open up our ears to listen. And actually that reminds me of another Prince channeling that I did, because again, I will put it below, but there was another Prince channeling where he was talking about the anvil in the ear as being important during these times. And I suspect that he's wanting us to activate that. Now let me just see what comes up when I put anvil and ear in. Anvil ear function. It's a bone in the middle ear. Sits between the other two bones. It's the middle bone by the sound of it. Okay. Helps us to hear, obviously, yeah. Anyway, we don't need to study anatomy here, but it's linked into the middle ear. One of you, I can't remember who it was, put on Instagram. I put on Instagram this morning, and it was a video, very short video. It was a really good demonstration. It was a scientific experiment of the different hertz frequencies. And I think they were working with 444 hertz. And they had something like a contraption here with a ball hanging down. And I think the ball had beside it a tuning fork or something with 444 hertz beside it. It wasn't moving. And then they brought in another tuning fork here with 528 frequency or something, a frequency that didn't match the 444 frequency beside the ball. And they were making the 528 hertz frequency and the ball didn't move. And then basically when they brought in another 444 hertz frequency beside the other one and just made the sound, the ball just started to move, even though it wasn't being touched. So it's this thing about when our frequencies can match with each other, which is actually what happens when you at least sit down and try to start listening and debating, and you have the common goal of, I want us to reach a place of understanding with this. I want us to get past this. How can we solve this? How can we both come out of this feeling as though we've got something from it? That's the power of a good debate. That you've got something, I've got something. Somehow we've compromised to a degree in the middle with regards to some of these sticking point areas, okay? So one of them might be sports, one of them might be the age of gender surgery, one of them might be the toilet situation, for example. You know, let's sit down, let's talk about this. How can you come out feeling as though you've been heard? How can this party come out feeling as though they've been heard? What is the solution in the middle? Because at the moment, no one's even talking to each other. Everyone's just shouting at each other. And it's not helping. What is helping is people like this beautiful soul that follows me, who's just standing in their sovereignty, which is that I am this. I am this. And when you do that, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful place to be. I took a little bit of a break because an alarm started to sound outside the house, a car alarm. But that's quite interesting as well, that it was sounding when I was talking about the energy of know thyself. It's as though Spirit is saying, again, this is another one of the big stumbling blocks, that we don't truly know ourselves, So when we do, we are far more tolerant of any other expression that is out there, because it doesn't have to be how we are or how we see the world or how we wish to operate in the world, but we allow that other person free rein to be who they truly are as well. And it did strike me that in terms of inner work to do, whether you are a male, whether you're a female, however you identify, but this is particularly for people that are struggling with this wave of gender fluidity going forward and ending up with the pie chart that Metatron was talking about at the end, where there's going to be many different emanations and examples of gender and ways that people identify. That is the way we're going, as well as it being slightly more androgynous, but equally there will still people being identified with male or female if that's what they choose. So if you're struggling with that, because many people are, the inner work is to do with knowing thyself. Because if you truly know yourself, you're not rocked by what anybody else is, does, etc. So I'm just feeling into this. And so, for example, as a woman, if you're a woman that's triggered, I would just ask you to ask yourself these questions. You might feel as though you've fully embraced what it is to be a woman, and I'm standing up for what it is to be a woman. But actually, is it just your version of what it is to be a woman? And what I mean by that is there are many different templates. There are many different templates of what femininity looks like. So, for example, using some of the templates and energies that I work with on this channel, you could look at the energy of something like Mother Mary, nourishing, nurturing, maternal, caring, soft, virginal maybe, gentle, etc. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm at peace with that. That's what being a woman is. But then we also have the emanation of Lilith, wild, uncontrolled, unfettered, free, or Kali Ma, outspoken, outrageous, determined, warrioress, etc. You also can look at the different stages of womanhood, from babe to crone. Are you comfortable with all of those phases? And when we're truly comfortable with all aspects of whatever it is that we identify as, we can't really be rocked by what other people are doing so much. So I'm just going to leave that as something for you to contemplate, because that's something that Prince was also talking about. He says that people's buttons are being pressed because many people haven't truly stepped into the gender that they are actually trying to defend in a weird way. Okay? And yeah, the extremes of, for example, like Mother Mary, Kali Ma, Lilith would be good ones to work with maybe. So, I'm just going to end this video by seeing if there's anything else that I've missed. And I'm going to pull a few cards to end with as well. I think I've covered most of what I wanted to cover in this first video, because I mean it's really only a starter debate. I haven't covered in this video the energy of bringing up a child in a genderless way. Again, I would say to that, I'll go to Metatron for that, but my gut feel is I'm being shown soul contracts again for all involved. What is there to say about raising a child genderless? You see Metatron saying straight away that the soul is genderless. The soul's just coming into a body. There's a confusion here between soul and body. And actually, we are both in any one incarnation. So my soul is genderless. You see me here identifying as female, and I have a name which is Amanda, and I've been brought up as a girl. But actually my soul is genderless and has been everything under the sun. And now I'm being taken to different planets where gender isn't an issue. They've actually transcended it. And I've got somebody like David Bowie's energy here who knew that, excuse me, who knew that from a very early age. And there are some who have come from these star systems, constellations, planets, and they feel very, very restricted when they get here. In terms of before, I mean, to a degree, we were all free before we came, in terms of the soul totally knowing and remembering that it was genderless, also raceless. All of the hurdles that we get when we come to Earth and put on a suit and are given an identity and a label. And the ascension path, in terms of moving towards where other planets are, it is more gender fluid. It's also more race fluid as well. So by that, the mixing of races as well and cultures is what happens. It's what's meant to happen. But again, I don't want to get into the whole race thing here, but again, Metatron showed me a similar pie chart. I hope you all know what pie charts are, or you'll be totally lost with this video, but you know, the pie chart. So, and that's split up again into all of the different races, all of the different colours, and it will still exist in the future of planet Earth. There still will be, for example, I don't know, an African or an Egyptian or an English person, but there's also going to be a merging of it all. There already has been, he's saying. There already has been, because it all stems back from Africa. So Africa created this great big melting pot, which has become, you know, all of the other nations on Earth, the populated from a single point. It's quite ironic, he says, that we all so over-identify with a particular place, a particular culture, a particular gender. We're all from the same pool, and the pool is unity. Yeah. But yeah, bringing up, let me just light some incense. Bringing up children. This might be for the next video, to be honest. I'm not getting anything particularly coming through yet. It's almost like I think this is probably enough for today's video. But I would like to pull some cards. I already had, actually. I've already pulled 3 cards. And then I'm going to pull 3 more. It's from a deck called The Rise of the Warrior. I pulled these a few days ago and I've just kept them out on a little altar I've got here, which I always do when I'm doing a video on any subject, just to pull the energy in. So we've got the yin yang cards, pretty obvious why they're here, okay? Yang, it says rise of the divine masculine, yin, rise of the divine feminine. But the one that came in the middle of these two is quite interesting. It's the card of ego. The ego. And the ego wants to know. The ego wants to label. The ego wants to stay with what it knows, and it wants to defend it at all costs. This storm energy that I've been describing in this video is an ego battle. It's not a heart battle, it's an ego battle. And the ego's feeling as though it wants war. Okay, it's a war. Gender war. So let's pull a few more cards after that. And I'm sort of drawn to the painting again, the Vesica Pisces painting here, and the energy of Jesus and Mary Magdalene to help us with this. The merging, the Vesica Pisces, the third energy in the centre, the creation point. What are we going to create with the merging of the male and female energies? And I'm also being shown here the souls that are incarnating. Okay, Vesica Pisces, the cells that incarnate, the cells that come in and separate at conception, and many souls choosing a gender fluid identity going forward. So it's going to become more and more common, more and more common. So there's no stopping this wave. We have to get to a place where we understand each other, we sit down with each other, we learn from each other, And we see everybody as equal, because everybody is. But, you know, the noisy, loud voices in the room that aren't helping us get to that place need to hush, is what I'm hearing. I'm not sure who's saying it. I think it's Bowie. Bowie always had that. Okay. Anything else to say? So I'm just going to see if there's anything I've missed, anything else coming up through these cards. So we've got yin, yang at war. We've got breakthrough. Nice. We've got the energy of the phoenix rising from the ashes. So it feels as though, I don't know whether we've reached the bottom of the barrel yet in terms of the polarisation, the separation, the trans activist whose name I won't even repeat because I can't even remember who they were, and I don't want to give energy to it, who's like, you know, take up your guns and, you know, violence on both sides, which is a small minority. It's always a small minority, noisy minority. I'm hearing it's like they're like children in the room who go to a lower 3D response to fight, you know. But that's also people who are persecuting, for example, the trans community. Equally, it's equally low vibration. You don't get breakthrough from that. But I do feel as though, and I think I just feel we've still got a bit further to fall in terms of separation and judgment and ignorance, unfortunately. But what Metatron is saying is the climb back upward will be much quicker as if that does happen. It doesn't have to be that it keeps falling, but I'm just wondering whether we have reached the bottom of the barrel yet in terms of, but it's because of these agitators in the room. That's what I'm feeling. It's the agitators in the room that are hurting the cause, and it's what Metatron and also Prince was talking about in terms of agendas, people getting behind it for reasons that are destructive. Okay. Anything else to say? So we've got the Phoenix energy. That's a beautiful card. Look at that. Commitment. It's a card of commitment. It says your connection is ascending. With the card of spiritual growth. Our connection to each other is ascending and will continue to ascend. Our connection with both sides of our psyche, our masculine and our feminine, will continue to ascend. The diversification of masculine and feminine will continue to ascend. And it's for our spiritual growth. What can we learn from this wonderful experiment? Life is a grand experiment. In all areas of life, we came here to learn, to grow. You have divine wisdom. You have divine wisdom. I'm being drawn, although I don't have enough knowledge here to talk about it, but maybe somebody could fill the gaps in for me. Anybody from the Eastern philosophies. It feels as though there are some templates within Eastern philosophies that can help us as well to bridge the divide and the gap. I don't know whether maybe some of the Hindu gods have both masculine and feminine qualities, or that, I don't know. Maybe it isn't Hinduism, maybe it's something else, but I'm feeling that there's some teaching to come through from that part of the world to help us with this. Or maybe it's just that a more overt acceptance of, for example, something like reincarnation. There's a more general awareness that you have been both male and female in many different lifetimes, and actually I recognise you from the lifetime I had as a whatever. And so it's maybe easier to break through, or not break through, it's just there's a different discussion happening there, but it's valid and needs hearing. So we have breakthrough, commitment and spiritual growth. We have to make a commitment to ourselves and to each other that we keep going through it's a bit like politics. I'm shown something like the Northern Ireland agreement, the peace treaty that was signed there 25 years ago, whenever it was. Different parties having to sit down with each other that have huge gaps in understanding, way that they look at the world, how they view the world, what they want from a particular debate or discussion. But eventually breakthrough happens if you want it enough. But definitely the agitators in the room need to calm down. And to that I'm hearing, don't give attention to them. Don't give attention to the agitators in the room, which is a hard one, because you want to respond to the agitator in the room. You want to respond to the campaign that's deliberately been put there to separate and divide. But the more you do that, you fan the flames and you keep sinking further and further to the bottom of the barrel. We've also got time is an illusion coming up. And we've also got the energy of past lives, which is what I was just saying about reincarnation. And the more that we remember that we've been everything in other lifetimes, why are we denying other people expression of something that you might have been before? Because time is an illusion, my friends. The most stuck in the mud people who are like, no, this is the way it is, and nothing is ever going to change, and male is male and female is female, and you can't be this and you can't be that. Well, just watch yourself, because you might have already, signed up for a lifetime in the future where you're exactly what you're judging. You're exactly what you're judging, because you need to learn that actually it's not as bad as that. And remember, parallel lifetimes, we're living different lifetimes. So you might actually be shouting at the person over there that you really can't stand and you can't do that. And you already are that. You're already doing that in another lifetime. But you haven't merged and integrated all the different aspects of you, past, present and future. Going back to David Wilcock, his video last night, he was talking about how he didn't call it the devil energy, but it was called something else, because he was talking about the law of one, or the Ra, I don't know, I don't follow that type of stuff. But anyway, he was talking about how this devil energy, which is called something else, can weave its way into past, present and future. So, and if you are a great light and you're helping the planet to evolve and awaken, you always will be attacked, is the first thing to say. But equally, we always think of the devil as this thing that is only in the present, that we're battling it right now in the present. But actually, it's an energy that can weave into past, present and future. So it can go into your past, it can go into your future, it can start to really interfere with all of these different timelines. But there's a countermeasure, which is God, whatever you want to call it, creator, your higher self, your soul tribe. So be very, very careful that what you are judging and projecting onto another and making somebody else as the one that's in the wrong, behind the bars, you shouldn't be doing that. Are you not actually just judging an aspect of yourself that you haven't been able to fully accept, integrate, understand Metatron's saying, listen to? It's this energy of control. I'm trying to control you to be what I want you to be and how I want the world to be. And the world has always been like this, and it always will be like this. No, it won't, because everything evolves, everything changes. And we came here as a great group of people in our billions to learn. And the collective decision and consciousness is we want to learn what happens when we move past energies of race, gender, sexuality, and also language needs a shake-up as well. And then what happens? Well, I don't know, but we'll find out. But we'll find out together. And we hold the highest timeline for Earth, for its people, and for us all to have the most beautiful ride that we possibly can here. And that, I think, is how I'm going to leave it today. Yeah, because we've got transformation. That's ultimately what this is all about. It's transforming. The caterpillar doesn't know it's going to become a butterfly necessarily. Okay. Hope you found that helpful. I'm sure I'll probably come back to this subject again over the years. Be interested to read your comments. Just keep them respectful to every person in this community. Thank you very much. Please like and share this video if it's been helpful. Take great care of yourself. Lots of love. See you all again soon. Bye-bye for now. Bye.